let's get to know each other a little bit, and let's see, what about summer plans? Does anybody have some fun summer plans already lined up? I know I'm taking a camping trip. Does anybody else go camping? No? Okay, nice. Yes? Family visits, that's always fun. Awesome. Yeah? Oh, graduation, congratulations. We have any other graduates here? Awesome, congratulations. It's amazing. We're going to, I'll just keep this one online. Is that okay? Awesome. What about summer classes? Who's taking summer classes this year? Nice, a few of you. Okay, keeping it up with the academics. Anybody do sports? I know a lot of people dedicate their summer to sports. Yeah, it's kind of hot in San Jose to be outside running around, right? What about online? Does anyone online have some fun summer plans?
Also going to graduation at Gonzaga in a couple of weeks.
Nice, it sounds like they're going to graduation too for some family members. So today you guys are gonna get a taste of how we do our hybrid meetings. So a hybrid meeting is when you host a conversation or an event in person, but you also have the option for people to hop in virtually. Because during the pandemic, we all relied on Zoom so much, people really like it as an option. Plus that means that parents can stay home and listen in on conversations via Zoom, or all of you could be at home listening to a conversation via Zoom while you do your homework or other stuff. So we've been testing out different ways to make that work. Sometimes there's technology challenges, there's Wi-Fi issues. So it's always something, but bear with us while we host a conversation with all of you in person and then virtually with some of our members. Usually for meetings like this, we have an agenda and then you'll be able to like see me taking notes while I kind of hear your thoughts on some of our programs and some of our events. So Ben here from the library is gonna help us hopefully get that projector going. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a moment to introduce Catalyze SV a little bit more and let you all know about our programs.
I also have a few announcements, so whenever I can pop in.
Perfect. Yeah, got you guys on the agenda also. Awesome. So Catalyze SV, what we do is we host community conversations around different topics that have to do with how the region develops. So we want to be able to amplify your voices, amplify community voices in order to make sure that our cities and communities are growing in a way that's really vibrant and that really addresses our local needs. No problem. And so what does that really mean and what does that look like? Well, we have kind of two branches of the organization. We have our community engagement, which is my department. We host educational events and social events so that people can get together and kind of discuss different topics. Today, we're going to dive into sustainable development. So I'll get to share a little bit about what that sounds like for me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on like what kind of words or what kind of features that triggers in all of your mind. And the goal is for us to really create a collaborative conversation between residents and the city and developers around what's needed locally that's not necessarily so technical and so data heavy as some of the other like city meetings and planning meetings that decide some of these things. So really trying to figure out a way to make it interesting for all of you and make sure that all of you feel like you have the information you need to be part of the conversation. The other aspect of our work is our project advocacy work. So we also host a monthly meeting where community members can come in and actually grade a project on various pieces. So some of the things that we might ask them as a group is, you know, how many affordable units does this development have? How many parks or grassy areas are included in the plan? Is there a community center as part of you know, the project so far? And so there's different categories where we ask them questions and we grade them on a scale of 1 to 5. Developers do not have to do this. This is something that they sign up for in order to kind of hear, you know, our perspectives and get a sense of, you know, what kind of project is going to be accepted and welcome in the community. So, and then we also have our community engagement meetings, which is the meeting that you've joined today, where we talk with community members about our programs, our events, to make sure that they're interesting for all of you, to make sure that we're discussing topics that are relevant to your communities, to your experiences, and to make sure that, you know, we're not hosting anything that's maybe not at all related to what you're interested in or at all interesting to you. So definitely looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, then I'll hand it over to Cynthia and she can tell us a little bit about the Resilience Corps.
Coming along, make sure that your time sheets, if you all have not signed up for the free earthquake ticket, please let me know that you're interested and how much tickets you would like. If you have been offered any, please let us know. We might provide achievements, just the
Horatio, we can't hear the speaker.
and,
Could you bring it closer?
about the end of the year celebration and June. And also once you start the exit process, we do have an exit survey that you should take to be able to process your last paycheck. Any questions about any? Thank you.
So Cynthia, I think we would like to hear a little bit about the group and like, what do you guys usually talk about during your meetings? What kind of topics do you all cover? So that we kind of know.
So the Resilience Corps is an initiative that started due to the pandemic, and there's been identified that there was kids that did not have after school care, and so then, you know, an opportunity for young folks to get employment development opportunities and also to help young kids in San Jose. So then those two ideas kind of came together and our group was born. And you are the second cohort of this program, and we hope to be able to offer this to more young adults. This is a great opportunity to be able to get you all the resources that you need to get on your job journey, because we know it's hard out there. Getting the resumes and getting those referrals in, the references. So that's why we provide that help. And then we host these professional development workshops to get you more information about resources in San Jose and also just job development kind of skills. And so these are helpful, and we definitely welcome the input to see what you all are interested in, so that we can provide those things. Awesome.
Awesome, thank you. The microphone helps it so that people also can hear a little bit better. Yeah, no problem. It's kind of hard to remember that we're talking to two audiences. It's one of the challenges of a hybrid meeting. But definitely bear with us as we kind of transition with the microphone, and hopefully can have a really good conversation. And I'm happy that Cynthia highlighted the professional development piece of your guys' work, so that I can mention that Catalyze SV has a fellowship position. Right now it is filled, but each year we bring on a fellow to help with our social media and some of our various like administrative tasks, like sending out meeting reminders and things like that. It's a nice opportunity to gain some leadership skills. We train them on facilitation and event hosting, and advocacy and social media training, so that they can help the organization. And hopefully a lot of those skills are transferable to other experiences. So when the position opens up, I'll definitely be sending the information over to Cynthia and Yesenia so that they can share with the group. Okay. So today, one of the things that we wanted to discuss is sustainable development. Usually at the top of our meetings, one thing that we've heard from community members is that, you know, we want to have a more open-ended conversation about what we value in our communities. Not necessarily something, you know, too detailed or specific that maybe is too policy oriented, but really creative ideas, creative conversations about what you all want to see. So let me ask you, let's start, you know, at the basics. When you guys hear the word sustainable development, like what does that ring to mind? What do you see? You know, if you were to look outside, do you see any examples? Okay, what about the word sustainable? What does the word sustainable mean to any of you? Yes.
I think of like things that can last a long time and does not damage, like, or it's like serving single use needs, but then long-term needs. Did that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Something that can last for a long time, something that can serve for a long time, isn't going to decay or deteriorate too quickly. So a worthwhile investment. Nice. So when we, as advocates of sustainable development, when we talk about that, what things that we might look at are, are there trees and plants around a development? Trees and plants can help a building stay more cool. It can help keep the air fresh around the building. And it can really help with the shade in the summer. There's a lot of benefits that we have found to greenery around communities. Thank you so much. So what do you guys think about this library? Does this library have a good amount of trees outside? Yeah, right. I would say a nice amount. A lot of them are young, so they probably planted them relatively recently. What about shrubs? Do you guys see any shrubs or greenery outside? Another benefit that can have that we've heard from advocates is that it helps absorb some of the water into the ground. So it's not just landing on a bunch of pavement. So let's think about your neighborhoods. When you think about your neighborhood, do you visualize a lot of trees? Let's see, who here lives in a neighborhood with lots of trees? You can go outside and you're under shade and you're comfortable. Nice. I'm sure that feels like a really nice perk in the summer, right? Like you don't have to hop from shade to shade. What about parks? I don't know if there's a park near here. Is anyone familiar with parks nearby? Okay, nice. So all of those things are kind of samples of sustainable development because natural features can really help alleviate some of the impacts of like climate change, increasing heat, air quality. What about some other examples? Is there anything else that maybe as part of the buildings you guys think might help for the environment? Yes.
Natural lighting like this, where they come windows, so we don't rely so much on like fluorescent.
Exactly, natural lighting. That's a great example. Just bear with me, everyone, while I hopefully connect to this projector. The library has been kind enough to lend us a laptop, so hopefully it's more in line with their system. And if you guys were to join Catalyze SV as an intern, these are some of the things that you would be helping with. Our intern had class today, so she wasn't able to come. Well, our fellow had class today, so she wasn't able to come, but we would have loved for you to meet her. Okay. Hopefully this will start soon. And let's see. So what about some things that are happening locally? Have you guys heard of any of like tree planting events happening in the area? Any celebrations of like the environment? Yeah. Earth Day is coming up. That's right. So how many of you all here ride your bikes everywhere? No. How many of you all here take public transportation everywhere? Okay. What about the rest of you? You all drive or get rides everywhere? Yeah, nice. Okay. So one of the other things that can be considered sustainable development is transportation options, right? If you all could access VTA or BART more comfortably, then maybe you would be more comfortable taking that as an alternative to cars. And of course, the emissions would go down. Yeah.
I want to add on, like, I think it's important to have like walkable city.
Mm-hmm.
Like having things that are near you that you can access without having to drive so much.
Yeah.
That's how it gets hard. But I think about it, it's like 20 minutes to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, definitely important to have walkable cities. And that can also have an impact on finances, right? Because if you can't afford car insurance, can't afford your yearly registration, can't afford maintenance, it's way more convenient sometimes to do the public transportation option, or even, you know, some of the electric scooters that they have here in San Jose now. Who has tried the electric scooters? Nice. And how was that? Was it fun? Was it convenient or was it kind of difficult? A long time. It was scary. Now, was it scary because there's no bike lanes, or why was it scary? Fast. Oh, okay. That's cool. What about, you know, would you guys consider Uber or ride sharing sustainable? Not Uber. It is pricey. That's very true. Yeah, but sometimes people consider that sustainable also, because then you don't have to take up space with parking, right? You just get dropped off and picked up and that's it. Your car doesn't have to sit there taking up land space long term. So some of these things that, you know, little by little add up to a big impact on how much emissions we have, how much energy we're consuming, different things. All of those can create a sustainable development plan. So the more the city, the more the community hears about the need for sustainable development, the more they might think about some of these things that make our communities a lot more livable. Okay, and so let me ask you something. If there was one thing that maybe you would want to see more of in your communities from these things that I've been sharing, what is something that maybe comes to mind? Like, you know what, we could use more of that in my neighborhood. Yes? Bike lanes. Yeah, I hear that a lot. Mm-hmm. Yes?
More greeneries and like more places that are like near my house that is like accessible, like groceries and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that way you don't have to travel so far, right, to get the things that you need. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even that can have a big impact on how much you use gas, how much you consume electricity, is how far you have to travel for your groceries, your doctors, your basic essentials. Who has, let's say, who has a hospital, an emergency room really close locally? Okay. How many of you maybe have to travel more than 30 minutes to the hospital? Yeah, that's a long way, right? So thinking about some of these things that maybe don't necessarily come to mind when you're thinking about housing development or affordable housing development, but that has a big impact on the quality of life for the people that live there, right? Whether or not there's a community clinic walking distance, whether or not there's childcare walking distance, different things like that. What is something else that maybe you would want to see in your neighborhood walking distance away? Yeah.
Okay, so this is more like safety, where I don't feel safe walking around in my neighborhood because there's not enough lights, and two, it's just, it doesn't feel safe. You don't know, like, there's people around, and
more in bike lanes and walkable communities. It's definitely something that they're going to continue to take into consideration in the next 2 to 5 years. A big piece of that is going to be coming out to the community and hosting meetings to talk with community members about what it's going to take to make your communities more walkable. And so when those meetings happen, do you all feel comfortable now that you have a good understanding of what sustainable development is? Yeah, okay. So who can give me a definition? Who can try to kind of summarize sustainable development for me? I have cookies. I brought you guys cookies. Come on. Yes. Yeah, sustainable development, maybe development that takes into consideration the future, right? And how it's going to impact our quality of life and how it may impact climate change, right? And how we can all kind of live in our communities. That's great. Awesome. Okay, so I feel like we got a good idea of what sustainable development is. So next we're going to talk about a little bit about our programs and maybe how can we create programs that are interesting to all of you. So usually one of the benefits of this monthly meeting that we host is that we get to talk to our community members about the plans that we already have for the organization coming up and kind of hearing about whether or not they're interesting and whether or not there's anything that we could do. Usually I would put up the agenda and so that you could all see what I'm typing. Let me see what I'm taking on the board so that you feel like I am capturing the comments that you're making and reflecting it accurately in our notes. So it's an activity that we do as a group. Unfortunately, the projector isn't working too well, but I will definitely share the notes with Cynthia and Yesenia so that you guys can see them. And then if there's ever anything that you want to add, or if you want to expand on anything that we've talked about today, you're always welcome to reach out to me. So right now, let's move on to talk a little bit about the events. One of the events that we have coming up is a tour of Charities Housing. So Charities Housing is an affordable housing development that's going to that just opened its doors on Page Street. And we are going to have a tour where we're going to bring community members and volunteers to take a look at it, to see like what have they done in order to make it more sustainable, make it really affordable, make it a nice place for families. We don't know what kind of features they've implemented, but some of the things that we've seen in other developments are things like including a community center, right, that the families can use for services or events, including a playground on site so that the kids can stay in the building and enjoy that feature safely. We've also seen something really cool where the parkings are stacks. So they actually have like the movable stacking cars in the parking structures. So that's something that we do for a number of reasons. One is to really celebrate the developers that are doing a good job connecting to the community and connecting to community needs. Because a lot of businesses really prioritize their profits. We like to celebrate those developers that kind of have thought outside of the box on how to make the community more comfortable. Because again, it's not something that they're necessarily being required to do. It's something that's some of them actually are doing out of their own interest and commitment to the community. Another good example of a tour is our exhibit tour, which we did of the apartment building over on North 7th. So they did a really cool thing where they included an art gallery as part of their apartment building in order to include San Jose artists as part of their business model. So they actually have a gallery there on the ground floor where San Jose artists can showcase their art, sell their pieces. They have some crafts that they sell, like earrings and different things, but they also have like cool paintings and things like that. So that's something that that developer decided was a priority. So let me ask you guys, does a tour sound interesting? Is that something that you would want to dedicate an hour or two? Let's say there's a new apartment building in your neighborhood and you got one of our emails that said, hey, come by, we'll have food for you. Come and learn more about the apartment building and see how they are creating a cool place for the community. Does that sound interesting? Is that something like, maybe I'd rather go to the movies? What do you guys think? Yeah? Yeah, the event largely depends on what is already there. For the art gallery that I mentioned, it's, you know, a small space. Sometimes they have one artist there, sometimes they switch out the artists. But yeah, definitely working to highlight a cool feature. And then also giving the invitation of joining us for dinner. So we also include dinner as part of the tour package. Another event that we're having this summer is our light rail to lunch event. So this one, actually, we are creating it with transitional aged youth in mind. I feel so uncool when I say that. Transitional aged youth in our minds, like in nonprofits and stuff, are like people 16 to 25 who are young adults looking, you know, for ways to venture out into the world. And maybe you guys don't feel so comfortable with public transportation. I mean, we already did our little hand raising exercise, and most of you don't see that as a transportation option, which is pretty common right now, particularly because a lot of the public transportation options weren't really inviting during the pandemic, right? Nobody was trying to be on BART. Nobody wanted to be on the buses. And now it's kind of like difficult to go backwards, right? But for people like me, you know, when I was in high school, I rode the BARTs up and down, up to San Francisco, back home, down to Fremont, and then I would take the little connection to Great America. Like, we saw that as the only way to get around. So for us, when we hear you all say that you're not really looking at public transportation as an option, it sounds really different from the experience that we had growing up. So one thing that we want to do is reintroduce you all to the public transportation system, and hopefully make you see the benefits, introduce you to something that might be an option when you're stuck at home and your mom doesn't want to give you a ride because she has to run errands and your big sister wants to hang out with her friends and leave the house. So yeah.
Actually, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm really only speaking for myself, so it might more so be biased, but I'm taking BART like all the time. I have a big group of friends or like neighbors who I know are constantly using BART just because being able to go to cities like Oakland and San Francisco is, I guess, primarily where the quote unquote party is at. I mean, that's where all artists go to post their concerts and tours, that's where pop-up events might be. But the thing is that taking BART can sometimes, I mean, despite the fact that I know that they've really improved, I would say within the last like 5 years specifically, it still can kind of be like discomforting, especially as a woman and like a young woman at that too. And the same thing goes for my friends, to be able to take BART, like notably so because we're taking BART around nighttime.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
Yeah, safety concerns with public transportation is always a big issue that comes up, particularly right now with the BART system, because they want more people to use it, but they haven't necessarily done any updates to the system, right? I think right here in San Jose, it's a little bit different because VTA has been investing in some of the stops, right, and the transit centers. So the Berryessa Transit Center over by the flea market, for example, is really nice and new. And so you can hop into a really nice and new BART station there at Berryessa, but then you get to Oakland Coliseum or Fruitvale, and it's a completely different energy. So one thing that BART is actually doing is putting together a community advisory council so that they can hear some of these concerns from the community and take input on what is going to make residents and community members more comfortable riding their lines. So who here has heard this word before, advisory council? No, Yes, a few of you. So an advisory council is a group, you know, of residents, professionals, anybody really that is giving advice to someone. When organizations or companies like BART want to implement changes and want to consider the community experience, they might put together an advisory group in order to hear, you know, what is going to work, what's needed, what's not going to work. And so let me ask all of you, let's say someone comes by and says, hey, like, we will pay you $600 for the summer or for 6 months if you can dedicate, let's say, 2 hours a month to a discussion about BART. Who here would be interested? Okay, so money is a good incentive. Yes, I think I already knew that, but it's always nice to reaffirm. So yeah, so back to the event, we're going to talk more about advisory councils and how to impact some of the changes that we want to see in the community. But, you know, for now, we'll talk about this one event. So we really want to reintroduce you guys to the VTA line because it can take you a lot of places here locally. And VTA has made a lot of their stops new and hopefully has more options for you now than it did during or prior to the pandemic. So one thing that we're thinking about is taking a ride from downtown San Jose over to the River Oaks area, grabbing some food and really doing a group trip so that we can show you guys how to get your tickets so that we can go all together in a more safe environment and kind of test out, you know, how is VTA working? Can we use NFC? Can I use my iPhone or my phone to pay for VTA? I don't know. But we're all gonna find out together, hopefully. So let me ask you this. How many of you guys would be interested in taking a little trip with us as a group, free food, free ticket fares, just to get more familiar with the VTA line? Okay. Hopefully we could get that number up, but I'm happy to hear that at least some of you guys are interested. The big benefit, I think, is that, you know, you'll be with a group of hopefully friends or, you know, fellow students, and we'll all kind of test out the lines together and see, you know, what kind of experience it is. They say they have Wi-Fi on the trains. I don't know. We're going to have to test it out and confirm. Is there anything that you guys would suggest for the event to kind of make it more entertaining or more interesting for you all? Somewhere in particular that you would want to stop or have been thinking about going but haven't made it there? Yeah.
Maybe like include like a scavenger hunt type of situation. Where you're like, ooh, like let us spot like 5 different shops and like specific, like just to help you pay more attention to where you're going and see what keeps you excited about the city and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if that would be a lot or not. Chaperones sort of in groups, navigate the system. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Amazing Race.
Okay, that's really cool idea, guys. I like that. We were, hopefully we're gonna give away some swag from VTA, so we'll have good prizes for you. We were gonna do a boring old quiz or poll, but I think a scavenger hunt sounds a lot funner. I'll have to like take a look at the route on Google Maps and figure out what to ask all of you. But see, now it's sounding more fun, right? Maybe more of you will think, I don't have anything to do this particular Thursday, I think it is. Maybe I'll go get some free food, have some fun with some friends from school. Feel free to invite your friends. Again, fares and food will be covered. Does anyone have any questions or any other thoughts about that event? Yeah. Yes, I will share the information with Cynthia and Yesenia, and then I think there was a sign-up sheet also, so we can definitely go ahead and share that with all of you. Okay, so the other event that we're thinking of having this summer is an Affordable Housing 101. So this is going to be a virtual event, not a hybrid event, so no in person, fully virtual. where we're gonna do like a Jeopardy type of game. Who here knows what Jeopardy is? Okay, cool. I'm like, maybe that's one of those things that you guys don't know, but okay, not too bad. Jeopardy game. So then we'll ask you some things about affordable housing, some basics about like, what are the income rates, if you know, and things like that. Some of definitions. And of course, we're going to be sharing that information as we go along. Maybe we'll share some of that information ahead of time so you can prepare. And the whole goal is to create a fun game type style of learning where you can hear about affordable housing and what that means, right? If you were to go, for example, to one of the city meetings on affordable housing, when they're talking about like how many units are going to be added to the community and what's going to be created, they'll use terms like AMI, like ELI. They'll talk about percents of income and different ratios and things like that. And a lot of it can get kind of overwhelming. So the way we want to do it is to kind of bring it back to basics and teach you guys what are some of those acronyms, right? So that if you wanted to join the conversation at the city about housing, you would have that kind of toolkit of information to really participate in that conversation well. So who thinks that if they had 2 spare hours, maybe an hour and a half, to play an online Jeopardy game, win some prizes, and learn some stuff about affordable housing advocacy, who would be interested in joining? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. It's good for us to know how many people would be interested in that type of program so that we know how many people to expect, how to make the program maybe more interesting. Is there anything that you guys would like to learn about affordable housing that maybe we can tackle in that program? Any questions you might have that we should hope to answer?
I think it's just kind of the basics of how you can get there, and then also like renters' rights and stuff like that. I think it's more kind of on the side related, but it's like it helps people who are looking for new housing, what they should expect, and kind of like what are the laws and stuff like that.
Okay. So going past a little bit of like the technical side of what is affordable housing and more about like, how do you access it? How, do you make sure that you're getting what you deserve as far as affordable housing goes? Okay, nice. Anything else that you guys might want to learn about affordable housing? I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I could find the answers. Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. I heard it's allowed, but I also heard that it's not.
Okay, so maybe like what are the requirements about rental increases? What are some of the rules about the percentages that are allowed? More about what the experience of a renter might be. Okay, cool. Anything else that maybe you've always been curious about affordable housing? Yeah.
Like what percentage of people who apply actually get into the program? Because I've heard it's actually very small. And like the list keeps getting longer and there's like issues of availability versus like demand too much.
Okay. Availability versus demand, yes. Okay, thank you so much, guys. That's really helpful. I think we definitely would have focused more on like the really technical terms and defining that for people, but this gives us some insight about what might be more interesting as far as like the experience of the renter and the people living in affordable housing. Thank you. The other event that we are hosting later this summer is about environmental development and the connection between health. So something that we've heard from the city and from other advocates about what we call urban forestry is that, trees and plants and greenery can really impact people's health. right? Being able to breathe the cleaner air, being able to rely on some shade can have some really good health outcomes. What are some things that you think maybe impacted health-wise by the trees or the plants around you? Yeah. Yeah. 100%. The mental health of people that are able to look out their window and look at a tree, or are able to step outside and see plants and trees, it's actually measurably better than people that just have concrete or buildings to look at. So it is a visual stimulus. What else? Yeah.
Definitely, looking on it personal, there's some people that want to really, if there's one friend, it feels nice seeing so much fragrance out there. It's so long since it was like this. So for me mentally, like it helps me just look outside and feel about the mountains are green. Like, there's grass in my yard.
Yeah, it's definitely different. That's right. And it's noticeable for sure. I think you had a hand up?
I think it's also the idea that you want the streets and the places you go to is places you want to stay. But the idea here lately is just like you go to a place, you go grocery or whatever, and you go and you go out. There's no reason to stay because it's so depressing to look at. It's just very dirty or whatever. You want it to be a community where you want to stay, you can hang out with your friends, and you feel comfortable and safe around it. As opposed to just like in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think the last reader considers the more disconnect I think you feel, not this way. Or just knowing what others worlds
Yeah, the being more connected with nature, right? And being able to appreciate some of the wildlife that maybe we don't think about when we consider cities. I love how you guys are focusing on the mental health aspect. That's really cool. That means that you guys already kind of are aware of some of those benefits, which I think a lot of people are learning about more and more. What about some of your physical health? Can anyone think of any of like your physical health that might be impacted by more plants and green spaces? Yeah. Yeah, better air quality for sure. Yeah.
It makes a difference with heat. With that black top over the concrete, a lot harder than
Oh yeah. I think there's like a 9-degree difference in San Jose between like shade and sun in the summer. That's a lot. Yeah. Allergies. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe thinking about what types of trees, are planted around, because sometimes that can impact the allergies. Yeah, for sure. Anything else? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and then it encourages you to walk around more. Like the fact that it's just you want to go out and do fresh air. That's like what encourages people to exercise more.
Yeah.
This may sound a little superficial, but I'm pretty sure air quality does impact like, the health of your skin as well.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so some of the other things that we've heard are related to like the air quality and the heat are things like respiratory problems, right? Someone with asthma in the heat is more likely to have an asthma attack. People with weight problems are more likely to become dehydrated in the heat. People with heart conditions are more likely to have heart attacks in the heat. So all of those different health outcomes can be impacted by investments in sustainable development and urban greening. So we're going to talk about all of that later this summer when we have an event. We are going to invite other nonprofits and other government agencies to come in and talk about some of the things that they're doing to increase sustainable development and hopefully have some of those health outcomes improve in our communities. So let me ask you guys this. How many of you guys would be interested in attending an event like that? Let's say it's 3 to 4 hours long. There's 2 panels. There's a food break in the middle. And if you want, you can only come for 2 hours and listen to one of the talks. Yeah, some of you might be interested. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of nonprofits like ourselves, we host large meetings or conferences in order to really dive into a topic and learn about it as much as we can with our limited time and hopefully have a really good conversation about what that looks like. So if you don't want to join our environmental event, I definitely encourage you to take a look at some of the other charities and nonprofits in the area and join one of their events. They might talk about other topics, and it's a really good opportunity for all of you to get familiar with some of the issues in the area and see if you feel passionately about any of them. But I definitely think you guys should come to ours because we're gonna have really good food and I'll be hosting. Yeah, did you have a question?
Yes, and so I think you said, I'm hearing that it's a lot of opportunity for us to voice our
Yeah.
input as a community. Would these spaces also be like a place to like maybe network or like?
Yeah.
Maybe get to know what the inner workings of like, internal like city stuff.
Yes, exactly. It's a really good opportunity to maybe learn about some of the different jobs that exist at the city. Sometimes we invite, people that work at the planning department or the housing department to come and talk. Sometimes we invite them to just come and sit in the room so that they're available to talk to the attendees. For example, last month we hosted an event about, women and children and how can we create spaces that are more welcoming and inclusive to them. And so we had 2 panels. We gave all of the attendees an opportunity to break out into small groups and talk about, what they feel passionately about. We took lots of notes so that we know, what the conversation in the room is. And then we had a break for food so that people could chat, could mingle. One of the really cool things that came out of that was that some of our attendees were childcare providers, and they got to connect with the city childcare department and the Office of Education. So they got to chat about some of the challenges in childcare with the actual human who is in charge of investing in childcare. And I think, we have all become really used to relying on like social media and virtual meetings, but I can guarantee that meeting somebody in person makes a really lasting impression, and you can really catch a vibe for people a lot more in person. So, are they really invested in this issue? Do they really feel passionately about helping my community? Can I hang out with them for 4 hours on a weekend and volunteer? How you get along with people can have a lot to do with your experience in the workplace and your experience volunteering. Yeah. Sorry, that was a little bit of a long-winded answer, but hopefully you guys got a good insight into what one of these events might be like. Okay, and you can always sign up to volunteer. So then maybe you're like a little in charge and can lead the conversations. Either Alex or myself would train you all on how to lead one of these small groups conversations so that you could take notes, and instead of maybe participating as an attendee, you would be able to facilitate in a more leadership role. So then that's going to happen later in the summer. I will definitely be sending Cynthia and Yesenia information about volunteer opportunities. Like I said, it's a really good opportunity to gain experience facilitating. That's something where in the future, if you want to gather people for meetings, if you want to lead teams at work, being able to facilitate difficult conversations is a really good skill. And then lastly, this year in the fall, in the winter, in November, we will have our Catalyzing Change Awards. So this is the second one that we're doing. Last year, we hosted a fundraiser where we gave out awards to developers who we thought did a really good job creating housing in our communities. And so we celebrated developers who considered environmental impacts, who considered childcare investments, and adding open space to their plans. So we gave out awards. We gave out awards to some of the local elected officials that were really advocates for our communities, and celebrating the work that they do that, you know, isn't necessarily a requirement, but that we really want to encourage them to continue doing so that we can see a change in our communities that's more aligned with what we need. So again, please feel welcome to volunteer for the event. I can always use more volunteers. That one's a little bit more of like a fun event. We have a musical performance, usually lots of food, and definitely lots of networking. So that event, we invite developers, we invite officials from the city, we invite people from other nonprofits. So if you wanted to like go to an event and get to know as many people as possible, I would definitely recommend that one. And again, as Cynthia mentioned, meeting people in person and talking to them about what you're passionate about. Sometimes, you know, it can hit a light bulb and they say, hey, I know someone that's hiring, or I know someone that needs an intern. And you would really be surprised how many times those conversations turn into opportunities. Any questions? Okay, let me ask you guys this. How many of y'all would consider volunteering for either our organization or another nonprofit? Okay. How many of you already volunteer? All right. Definitely want to encourage all of you to look for volunteering opportunities. When you're in high school, you know, people are always looking for volunteers, but that can turn into jobs, that can turn into skill building. We are going to jump into a different topic now, which is our SEAL team, which is actually a paid opportunity with Catalyze SV to volunteer for our advisory group. Okay, so who remembers what an advisory group is? Yeah. Yes, exactly. Perfect. So we are putting together a group of advisors. We are calling it our SEAL team, our community engagement ambassadors and leaders. And really, we just need a group of volunteers who we can reliably talk to about our programs. Similarly to how we've done today, where I kind of presented to all of you the events that I'm planning this year, asked you questions about what might be funner, what might be more interesting, and then getting ideas maybe for new events. What are some things that I haven't thought of that might be of interest to your community? So we're probably going to have 4 meetings a year. It will be paid. We are going to start sending out information, and the meetings will probably be 2 hours long every 3 months, something like that. The first one will be later this year. How many of you might be interested in getting more information about this opportunity? Awesome, thank you guys. What do you think might make the opportunity better? Do you think 4 meetings a year is too many, too little? How does that sound? Yeah.
I think it's more or less like, what are the requirements for being?
Yeah.
Like, where do the meetings go?
Yeah, so the meetings would be similar to today, where I talk about our programs and events. And then we would get your opinion on whether or not they sound boring, whether or not they sound fun. What can we do to make them more interesting? What are maybe some development topics that we need to talk about more deeply? Today, we're talking about sustainable development, but sometimes we talk about affordability. Other times we talk about walkability and transportation access. So really figuring out what are the questions that community members have that we can help answer. Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting. One thing that I have been considering is including a research project or a proposal as part of the workload for the advisory council. Is that something that would be interesting to all of you? Okay, interesting. One thing that our committee members have done in the past is research community events. So we might ask them, hey, take a look at what's going on in the community, what other organizations or what is the city doing locally, and let us know what you think about it. Does it look fun? Should we do something similar? Should we figure out how to partner with them? So those are definitely all questions that you guys could help us explore. Yeah.
Some of our RCA participate in looking at what are available to young people, trying to, you know, put pressure on the city to develop more opportunities for you all. So that's like something that kind of tied to the research portion.
Okay, nice. About what jobs interest them and are available at the city. Cool.
And at a livable wage too, because people want to get paid enough to be able to pay.
Yeah. Awesome. One of the things that we also want to consider is like, what voices do we have in the room, right? We definitely want to have people in the room that represent the fabric of our community. So thinking about demographically, you know, what representation we want to see, but we also want to see variety of like professional backgrounds, variety of physical abilities and different things like that. So we can hear a little bit of various perspectives on the community and how it's growing. What are some of the groups or some of the qualifications that you guys think would make for a really good representative on this group? Someone college age, okay.
Graduating, but then also getting into the adulthood section.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. What about, let me ask you guys this. What would be a volunteer opportunity that you would be really interested in? Is it, you know, helping out at events? Is it coming to some of these meetings? What sounds more interesting to you all? Yeah. Yeah. Networking opportunities. Okay. So if we included a networking piece as part of our regular meetings or as an optional piece as well, that would be of interest to all of you? Yeah. Okay. I see some nods. Okay, cool. Maybe some introductions to other organizations and other potential employers. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you could provide like 4 or 5 options and ask everyone to raise their hand.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Let me ask you guys this. How many of you would be interested in like a 30-minute networking opportunity as part of these meetings? Okay, awesome. How many of you would be interested in a separate 1-hour meeting with other nonprofits, other developers, in more of a social space? Okay. Yeah, definitely. Okay, some of you are interested more in a social opportunity. Okay. How many of you would be interested in taking on a research task and maybe figuring out what kind of events are really cool for us? Okay, nice. Who's really interested in advocacy and maybe would want to coordinate the advocacy piece of the work? Nice. Okay. Who needs more information in order to be interested? But hey, maybe you're a little curious. Maybe you'll open my email. Oh man, definitely want more of you to open my email. Okay. Yeah, so let me remind you all that it's a paid experience, okay? we are hoping to make it a livable wage so that the stipend equates to like the time that you're committing. And we really want to make sure that it provides you all with skill building opportunities as well. So if there's anything that we could do, maybe something that you want to learn as far as professional development, who would be interested in learning how to host a meeting and present? Okay, nice, awesome. Who would be interested in learning more about how to do an event, a community event? Okay, awesome. Who would be more interested in learning about affordable housing and how it's actually created at the city? Nice, okay. What about transportation options? Who feels really passionately about like walkable communities and transportation? Okay, okay. What about sustainable development? Who has been kind of interested in today's topic and want to learn more? Awesome. All right, thank you guys. I think that gives me a really good idea of like what you guys are more passionate about, and hopefully what are some of the things that we can tackle in the advisory group to get participation either from some of you here in the room or some more people in your age range. Is there anything else that maybe you guys could recommend to me in order to get more people interested in our programs? Yeah.
I'm kind of curious as to how like the discussion kind of turns into the bullet points for like actual changes to be made.
Yeah.
Like the process of like, okay, so we have ideas for communities, then how does that idea turn into reality? I'm interested in knowing if the discussion is like turning to fruition.
Yeah, let me make a note of that. So one of the things that we always ensure to do in our meetings, which you guys have seen me do a little bit today, is take lots of notes on what everyone says. We like to be really transparent with our events and community input. So after all of our community events, either our fellow or myself will put together all of the notes from the various small groups and all of the notes from the comments that people made and put together like a 1 or 2 page report. So we would like to look at like, what are the big pictures that people talked about? What are the things that they were really interested in? And then we also include all of the other notes so that if anybody is super interested and wants to dig into it, they'll be able to see like what all of you said. And our goal with creating all of that material is to be able to really easily share it with decision makers. So passing it along to people at the city, people at the county, or developers so that they have that information on hand when they're designing their programs or their projects. Again, they're not required to listen to us, right? But the more voices we have repeating the same values, the more strength in numbers we can present and hopefully move them towards better action, investments in things that are really important for all of you. And the benefit to them is that, hey, they get to propose projects with some inside look into what the community cares about and hopefully be really well received. Hopefully people are excited that there's a new development in the area. Hopefully they see it as an added benefit to the community and not as like a big ugly building that's getting built at the corner or something. Yeah.
So you're basically like cleaning up on the before that.
Exactly. Yep. And our fellow would help with all of that. And our volunteers help actually facilitate those conversations and take all of those notes. So if you were to volunteer for any of our events, you'd be part of that process with a lot of hand holding from either myself or Alex, of course. Okay, so with a little bit more information, how many of you think, hey, maybe I can volunteer for the next event? Okay, nice, thank you. Awesome. Let's see. Okay, we are going to move on to the next topic, which is actually our volunteer opportunities. Does anyone else have any cool tips for me on how to make our advisory group really interesting and really engaging? What kind of food do you guys like? Like, I can always order pizza, but if you guys prefer sushi, what do you go, if you guys, how can I entice you with food? Burritos? I can definitely order burritos. What about tamales? I like tamales. Yeah. Okay. What about, yeah.
I think also kind of including like a way to like get to know other people on the team. Kind of like maybe a game night or some sort of like I don't know, like some sort of event, like a mixed event.
Yeah.
Get to know them, who we're working with, and like how long we've been working here, so like we kind of know and connect with them. Because like we said, right, we want to know whether or not we want to work with this person for the next 4 hours or not, and whether or not like how we can make the experience a bit better.
Yeah, so maybe if we had like a mixer or a get to know you session before the advisory group officially starts, would that make it a little bit more comfortable to join? Yeah, nice. Okay, thank you. That's a really cool tip. Okay, what about this mixer? What type of locations do you guys consider fun? Like sometimes we host events at the Mexican Heritage Plaza. Are you guys familiar with that space? Yeah, are you guys comfortable going there? It's over on like King. Yeah, okay. What are some other cool community spaces that you guys would feel comfortable in? The library, you guys like this library? What are some other libraries that you guys like? Or some cool parks? What's the coolest park you know? Like if I had to do an outdoor event, which one would you recommend to me? Because I'm planning an outdoor event and I need a recommendation.
MLK is a pretty central, MLK library. There's another one where we've done,
Okay, MLK Library, Cunningham Park.
or maybe it depends on what's easiest for y'all to get to.
What about venturing outside of San Jose? Would you guys be comfortable venturing up to Mountain View or Santa Clara?
We have
Oh. Yeah. I think I saw a hand raised back there. San Francisco, okay. That's literally the one place we don't really go too much. Yeah, I think we would go up as high as like San Mateo, and then on this side, maybe up as high as like Union City. Like sometimes we've done events in Milpitas or Fremont. So you guys would be comfortable venturing out of San Jose for a really cool, fun event, or to volunteer for a really cool, fun event? Yeah, maybe. Depends if you come to our VTA event, right? And get to know the VTA line and get really comfortable with it. Awesome. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about our SEAL team, other events. So let me again reiterate what like volunteering for Catalyze SV looks like. So when we have an event, we send out texts and emails to our committee members. Those are people that have signed up to volunteer for either our meetings or our events. And we ask them, hey, are you free on this day? And can we schedule a time to talk to you about how we want to host the event? So we would, either myself or Alex would have a meeting with you to talk about, what are the goals of the event? What are our expectations of you? What help do we need from you? To really prepare so that when you show up to the event, you already kind of know what you're supposed to be doing or who you're supposed to check in with. So some things that you could potentially help with during these volunteer opportunities is helping me with registration, just checking people in on your phone, on our website when they arrive, and directing them to the food and drinks. Another thing you could potentially do is facilitate. So we would train you on how to guide the conversations, how to take notes while you're doing that around different topics. And that would be a really good skill building opportunity as well. And then at the end of the event, you send me your notes, we give you a big thank you, and that's it. That is the volunteer opportunity. Does that sound doable to people? Do you feel like, hey, you know what? I have the skill sets to do that. Okay, I think all of you could do it because we do a lot of training and preparing all of you. And I definitely think that being out in in-person events and being the face of the event is a really cool skill building opportunity. So I would definitely press you all to think about it a little bit more. Our environmental event is happening in September. I will send the volunteer information to Yesenia and Cynthia. And I really hope that by then you can all kind of like take a look at our website, take a look at our YouTube channel, and really take a look at the impact that we hope to have with our programs so that you hopefully feel a little bit more motivated to volunteer. And please remember that our SEAL team membership is a paid position. So our event volunteers are not a paid position, but our SEAL team membership is. So how many of you all may be interested in joining the SEAL team? Yeah, okay. Do you have a question? No, okay. Nice. Okay, I saw some hands up. How many of you maybe volunteer for one of our events? Okay, less hands, not surprising, I understand. And then again, I definitely would encourage you to consider volunteering for our end of year event. It is we have over 100 attendees potentially. So that would be 100 faces, potential employers that you would be able to mingle with. Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay, we're almost done with my agenda. We also do something every month where we celebrate the volunteers who have helped us in the last few months with our programs. This month, we're celebrating Pamela Campos. She has helped as an advocate for childcare centers. She has helped us create one of our last events, our Women and Children, Designing for Women and Children event, and she was one of the speakers. So not only did she help us think of this really cool topic to tackle with the community, but she also spoke at the event and continues to engage members around advocacy for childcare development spaces. So we're going to be publishing some information about her on our social media, a little get to know you where she'll answer some questions about why she's passionate about the work. Definitely encourage all of you to follow us on Instagram. We post clips of our events on there sometimes and different opportunities for engagement. We may launch a TikTok this year. Hopefully, we'll see. We are having actually a TikTok influencer join us for our Light Rail to Lunch event, Mr. Barricade, who does videos about local development and can talk a little bit more about the planning process. So I think that our Light Rail to Lunch event is going to be really cool in June. Yeah. Any questions? So if you guys volunteer, you could potentially also be highlighted on all of our social media. Again, that would cause more people in the community to get to know you and increase your online presence. And lastly, our next community engagement meeting is on May 18th at 7 p.m. This will be a completely Zoom virtual meeting, and it'll be a lot like this. We're going to talk some more about our events, check in on where we are in the planning process, and get some input on how we can make it better, how we can make it more interesting, and what are some of the questions that we can answer for the community. So if you guys have some free time on May 18th, I would really appreciate it if you hopped in the Zoom and gave me some more of your cool feedback. And that's it for me today. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciated it. Cynthia, do you have some last comments?
Thank you for joining us. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we have another presentation. It's gonna be short and Josh will get here by 4:30. And there's food.
Yeah. Help yourselves. Thank you so much. I'll be sending all of the volunteer information over. Thank you.